Hi, welcome. It's Chef Jenny, ready to work with you on some knife skills. So we're going to do several short videos just to give you some help with different skills with your knife. This is the key to being a good cook. If you get comfortable with your knife in the kitchen, you will be able to make lots of things a lot faster. So let's talk about the knife first. This is the knife that you need in your kitchen, probably the most important tool you can use. And it's a chef knife. Mine's about an 8-inch one. You can get longer ones. This is perfect for me, and I like the size of it. I would recommend when you're shopping for knives that you look and you want to get a decent one to go and feel them. You need to see which ones feel comfortable in your hand and what the weight is. You want a nice even weight on there. And there's some really, you can spend so much money on a knife or you can spend very little. They are going to depend on that quality of the compounds in the blade themselves and how well they hold their edges. So think about that on knives. But a sharp knife is a safe knife. So keeping your knives sharp is very important. The way you store knives is important. One of the best ways to store them is on a magnetic surface. That way you're not messing with the blade. But if you can't do that, if you can store them in a wooden holder, that's helpful too. I think what can get dangerous is if we throw them in a drawer and they're just floating around in the drawer and things like that. So find the best ways that work for you. Now let's talk about how to hold a knife. So with a knife, this area right here is called the bolster. And what you want to do is the hand you're going to use to cut with, which is my right hand, I'm going to take my thumb and my pointer finger and I'm going to grab right above the handle on the bolster right there. Then I'm going to wrap my fingers around so that I have kind of the knuckle on top like that. Now you've probably, a lot of people when they start with knives, they hold them too far down and you just don't have as much control that way. Or they put their finger on top and again, you just don't have as much control. What we're trying to do is keep our knife under control so that we don't get hurt by it and it makes beautiful cuts. So again, the finger, the pointer finger and the thumb, grab above the bolster and wrap your hand. Then set up your cutting board. I think it's a good idea to have different cutting boards, one for maybe your vegetables and a different one for possibly your raw meats. If you're on a surface where your cutting board is slipping around, you can always take a towel and wet it down and put it underneath your cutting board and it will suction the board in place so it's not sliding around. So think about that if it's helpful. You can even just use a small towel that's wet to do that. It doesn't have to be super wet, just damp. Just lay it underneath the board and it won't slide. Okay, as far as standing, face the board, have the board close to you so that you can get a really good bird's eye view of what you're cutting. Get comfortable in how you're standing. Don't be in a weird position feet-wise, but something that feels comfortable and stable. And then what I like to do is put my elbows in and face the board, put my knife down and then kind of turn slightly, just slightly to get my elbow out of the way. It's a very small turn, just a 10-degree turn. And that gives me a little bit more room and I don't have to use my shoulders so much. The hand that's not cutting is really the hand that's important because it's doing the pushing to keep the food in place. And what your goal is to put your knuckles against the blade, slide forward, lift up, slide back, slide forward, lift up, slide back, slide forward, lift up, slide back. Your cut is coming from the forward motion and it's happening in this area. A lot of people think they're cutting in this direction. No, we're cutting blade down, move forward, slide back, move forward, slide back. Try taking your middle finger and putting it a little bit in front and the other two so that you're kind of like this. And use your knuckle as your guide. Your knuckle is what's going to guide, and you keep your fingers out of the way. It's like a claw. Okay? So practice that and listen for the swoosh, swoosh, swoosh sound. That's what you want. Okay, so that's the beginning. Go practice that first and then grab a russet potato and peel it because we're going to start with that in the next video. Thanks for coming. Find a good sharp knife and let's get back together soon. Bon appetit.